Hello everybody, it's Jen. I'm so excited to be guest designing for the July Pink and Main Crafty Courtyard subscription card kit called Pen Pals. I'm just showing you the contents of the kit. I did not do an unboxing. My kit got lost in the mail system, so I'm a little late posting this, but let's jump into card number 1. So as you can see, you may notice I'm coloring with something a little bit different today. I was lucky to receive the 120 Everblend markers. These are alcohol markers by Arteza, and I wanted to try these out and get used to them, see how I like them before I did a full review video on my channel, so I could tell you what I really thought about these markers and whether they're worth investing in. So I decided to try them out here with the Pen Pal kit, and stay tuned for a full review using these markers. As you can see, they are a little bit challenging to see the numbers and names in comparison to when I leave my Copic marker caps to the left-hand side of the screen so that you can follow along with what colors I'm using. So that's a little bit tricky, but I did love the color blend that I got for the darker skin tone here on this little girl holding this rather large pencil. I am absolutely in love with this month's kit. I loved last month's kit as well, with all the things to do with the shore and seashells and the ocean. So in my opinion, Pink and Main has just knocked it out of the crafty park the last couple of months. So I'm super excited to share these cards with you. And I'll be taking a break for August because I'll be on vacation, but I hope that they ask me back in the future because I absolutely love working with these kits, and I hope you enjoy getting some inspiration from my videos when I work with them as well. So for this little girl here, I'm doing a dark color blend for the hair. I was going for almost a black look. Now, I struggle with hair, I'm not gonna lie. It is probably the thing that I struggle with most when it comes to coloring. And so I'm just doing my best here. I am trying to do some flicking motion with these markers. Now these are a nib marker. They are not a brush tip like the Copics. So it's a little bit challenging because I'm not used to working with them. However, I did start out with the Spectrum Noir markers, which are nib tips as well, but I'm just so used to using my Copics that it just takes a little bit practice to get back into the swing of things with the nib tip instead of the brush tip. So I'm just going to do this the best that I can. I feel like we always have things that we work on in our crafting, and hair is definitely one of those things that I continue to strive to do better on. But I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. I am just going to go back with the two darker colors and add some longer flick motions just to bring some of those lines back in so the hair doesn't look completely solid, and I was much happier with how that turned out. Now this kit has an amazing color palette to it. I absolutely loved it. It had like a royally purpley blue color, peach, aqua, pink, and it also was kind of scattered with some dark gray and some light gray. So those are the colors that I'm playing off of here. And I wanted to use the pattern paper that comes in the full-size paper pad that kind of looks like the airmail strip with the blue, white, and red, but in this case it's more of an orangey apricot color. So these are the colors I chose for this peachy apricot color, and I love the way these three colors in particular blended. So I was able to get some contrast with the dark color and then a little bit of a highlight with the lightest color that I used, and I found, like I said, that these three colors blended really well together. Now for the marker or the pen or pencil, whatever you want it to be, I'm going to try to match the blue color in the color palette, and the closest were in a dark kind of purple family that matched the color the best. but there were only two colors that were similar. So I'm going to do a 2-color blend here with the tip-to-tip technique in order to get that mid-tone color for a better blend. So I just went down the edge of the pen here with my lightest color, and now I'm going to go back with the darkest color and just add the darkest color to the very outside edges of the pen. Around her hands would cast a shadow, and by her face and her hair there. So here's where I'm going to do the tip-to-tip technique. So if you haven't seen this before, you just want to touch the lightest marker to the darker marker and go ahead and blend out that darkest color that you've laid onto your image. So this can take a little bit of time to get that blend that you're looking for, but these markers worked quite well for the tip-to-tip. So you'd think that I used 3 colors here for my blend, but only 2. So once I get this done, then I'm going to come back in with that lightest marker, and I'm going to blend out the color that I've laid down so far. So I wanted it to look like the pen was rounded, so that's why I had the 2 sides with the darkest shade and then the highlight in the middle. And I think this turned out okay. So the stamp set does not come with a coordinating die set for this stamp, but they were super easy to cut out. I'm going to fussy cut her here, moving my paper and not my scissors, and I'm leaving a small white border for this particular card. So once I get her fussy cutted, that doesn't sound right. Once I get her cut out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to create my card panel here. And this is a super clean and simple card. I just cut out an oval with a stitched oval die. I'm going to stamp the sentiment right back soon. For the pattern paper that looks kind of like the airmail, I cut that out with a stitched rectangle die, and I'm just using my art glitter glue to adhere the oval onto the panel. I really like to kind of butt up my sentiments to my images sometimes, so that's what I'm doing here. I did pop up this little girl on some foam adhesive, and now I'm just using a couple of the gray markers to add some shading here just to ground her so that it doesn't look like she's floating in mid-air. To finish off this card, I'm going to add some white gel detail here. This is the Signo Uniball white gel pen, and then I'm going to darken up her eyes a little bit with my Zig Millennium marker. It's a 0.05 marker. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this to some of the apricot or orange cardstock that came in the kit. All of my cards today are A2 size cards, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5. So jumping into card number 2, I loved the pattern paper in this card kit, and I wanted to do another fairly simple design using the little envelope here that came in the stamp set. Now I didn't like the way the first one came out, so I did stamp 3 more. I'm only going to use 3 on the card. I want these envelopes to look white, but I want them to have some dimension. So I'm going ahead and using some gray markers here to add some contrast and to make it look like there's some shadows on the little envelopes. This will just bring them to life a little bit more. So you can see here I'm using a number of the gray markers. When I get to the lighter tone, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that to all of the lines in the image, and then I'm going to blend that out with the blender pen. So I've gone ahead and colored the other 2, and now I'm going to do the hearts using the apricot color. Here's the pinky red, well, it's not really red, the pinky color that I used for all my coloring with the pinks for this card kit, and the aquas as well. So you can always take a screenshot or slow down the video if you want to see what colors I used if you happen to have these markers. For the envelopes, I'm actually going to cut them right to the lines. I'm just using my Cutter Bee scissors here. These are fantastic for fine detail cutting. And then I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo black marker and outline the images so that there's a nice black line and you can't tell if there's any imperfections in the fussy cutting. So now we're going to go ahead and create the panel for this card. I'm using 2 of the pattern papers, the one with the lines of envelopes, which are so adorable, and then I loved this written sentiment piece of pattern paper as well. I did go ahead and back that on some of the pink cardstock that came in the kit, and I popped this little focal panel up on some fun foam, just using some really sticky double-sided adhesive for that to make sure that that foam stays where I want it to. So I'm going to arrange the 3 little envelopes here to the top portion of my panel, and then I'm going to adhere those straight down with my liquid adhesive. And if you're wondering about any of the products that I used today, I will have those linked below, as well as a link to the Pink and Main Crafty Courtyard kit. They should be releasing their August kit very soon, so I would suggest checking them out and not waiting, because these kits are just fantastic and I do highly recommend them. I love using them. I had so much fun with this kit. I did not want to stop playing with it, and I can't wait to make some more cards with it as well. So I decided in the end to add some foam adhesive or some fun foam to my little envelopes, just to pop them up a little bit from all of the words written on that pattern paper, and I think that just separates it out a little bit more. I did cut both of those panels out with a stitched rectangle die from Fawn, and I'm using some of the pink pattern paper for my card base. So there's card number 2 complete. For card number 3, I loved these 2 elements that are my focus for this card. So there was an envelope die that came in the kit this month, and then this iridescent kind of holographic cardstock that came in the kit, which I absolutely loved. So that will be the focal point of my card. Now this little heart comes with the envelope die set, and it fits perfectly around these little hearts in this pattern paper. And the pattern paper is available separately, so I will link that as well in case you're interested. I absolutely love all of the papers that came in this month's kit. So I'm just going to go ahead here. I'm going to use my Teflon bone folder, and I'm going to score on the fold lines here to make my little envelope. I did cut out this piece here, the top portion of the envelope, because I wanted to have the envelope top open and I didn't want it to be white inside, so I just added a little piece of the pattern paper. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere that down with my liquid adhesive, and then once I adhere the envelope together, it will look like it is lined with paper. So in order to make sure that this card or the envelope stays put, I'm using 1/8 inch Scor tape. This is really strong adhesive. The holographic cardstock is quite thick, so I didn't want to just use a liquid adhesive. And I was trying to fold this and there was a little piece hanging out here, so I'm just going to trim that up. This wouldn't be an issue if you're using a lighter weight cardstock or paper. With the heavier ones, you might just want to cut out a tiny bit of either side. So there's this adorable notepad paper that comes in the paper pad, and so I wanted to make it look like there's a note coming out of the envelope. I went ahead and I used a rounded rectangle die here for my focal panel, and I'm just using some worn lipstick Distress Oxide with my makeup brushes. These I purchased really inexpensively off Amazon. And I just want to create a little bit of a background for my envelope. Not really worried about it getting quite dark in the middle because I know the envelope will cover most of it. I just sort of wanted a halo effect of that pink coming out from behind it. So I'm going to adhere my envelope onto my card panel with some ATG tape. This is quite strong. and I think will work better than a liquid adhesive. I'm going to pop up the top of my notepad paper there with some foam adhesive, and then I want to sprinkle some of these hearts around the envelope to look like there's some love coming out of this little envelope, or note filled with love was kind of the theme I was going for. So here I noticed that the envelope was sticking up quite a bit. I am going to adhere that once I get some of these hearts on. I did cut off the bottom of that blue one just so that it laid better underneath that little piece of note paper. I'm going to go ahead and tuck 4 of these around the inside of the envelope, and then I decide to place the 5th one to the bottom left hand side of the envelope, and here's where I'm using some of that Scor tape just to adhere down the top of that envelope so it's not bulging. I thought it would also be a little bit easier to mail it. Had a bit of trouble using or getting off that release paper, so I just used my craft pick and didn't even worry about getting the release paper out of the envelope because no one will ever know it's in there, and I didn't want to struggle with it too much on camera. So here's where I'm going to lay down this final heart. I did use some foam adhesive for the one side that's laying off of the envelope, and then I used some liquid adhesive for the top part to adhere it down to the envelope. And now I'm just masking off one of the sentiments. I'm going to write or stamp the word hello right on the little note card, and I'm using some purple tape here just to make sure that I don't get ink anywhere I don't want it. Making quite a bit of mess here with ink, but I managed not to get it on my fingers. So I'm going to stamp that on the line there. And then I also wanted to use the sentiment thinking of you, and I decided to put it underneath the envelope. I'm using my Versafine Clair Nocturne ink here. This is my favorite black ink for stamping sentiments. It gives an amazing impression on the first stamp, which I love. So for the back of this panel, I decided to use some of the apricot pattern paper. It has pink hearts on it. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but you can probably see it in the still shots. And so I thought the fact that it had the hearts on it went really well with the focal image that I created for this particular card. Had a little bit of cat hair on the back of that, of course. And now I'm just going to go ahead and finish up this card by placing the panel onto the card base. Got a little bit of ink on the side of that, so I just used my white eraser to clean that up quickly. And now I'm going to use some of the glitter glue that came in this month's kit. It's really pretty. I just added some accents to the sides of the hearts. It dries clear but gives a nice glitter look to the card. So there's that one finished. We'll move on to card number 4. I just had to use this little dog. He's so cute. So I'm going to color the dog in grays. I'm using one of the dogs on the pattern paper as inspiration that I'm also going to adhere to my card. So I'm coloring him up very similar in light gray for his body, and then for his ears, his eye spot, and his muzzle and spots on his back, I'm going to do that a little bit darker. I'm managing to achieve the coloring of this dog with only 4 markers. So for the darker spots, I'm using the 3 darkest, and I always have my marker caps from darkest to lightest, so the top marker is the darkest color that I'm using. For the lighter area, I'm using the bottom 3 markers. For the envelope that I'm going to start coloring up here in just a minute, I'm using the aqua color, and in the pattern paper, the heart is the apricot color, so that's what I'm going to use as colors for this little puppy. So for the shadows for the envelope, there would definitely be a shadow cast underneath his mouth where he's holding it, and then also under the heart a little bit, and I added some darker spots on some of those folds as well. For his nose, I colored that in pink just as it is on the pattern paper, and I went ahead and colored this little girl off screen as well, and I'm going to include her on this card. So here's the pattern paper that I'm talking about. You can see once I stop twirling the paper, you can see the little dog there to the bottom right is holding the aqua colored pattern paper. So I'm going to use this for the bottom, I guess 1/3 of my card panel. I'm going to get this down and then I will trim up the paper that's hanging off of the card base. And then I'm going to bring in some of the rose gold washi tape that was included in the kit. It's so pretty, and I thought it went well with the colors of the little girl that I colored up for this particular card. So for the focal panel, I used a stitched oval, and I used some of the blue pattern paper with the white polka dots. I did pop this up on some fun foam, and again used my double-sided tape here. You can see I didn't get it down in the right place the first time, but I was able to get it up, which was surprising because normally you only get one chance with this double-sided tape, but I must not have placed it down hard. So I was so thankful I was able to get that up. So there's the images on the card. Now I went ahead and just used a heart die from my stash and cut that out of some of the pink pattern paper that came in the kit, and I'm going to stamp sending smiles. I'm going to add a little bit of glue and then some fun foam off to the one side that will hang off my little oval, and I'm going to kind of nuzzle that in between the little girl and the puppy and have it overhang off the oval. And I thought that just filled out the top of the card nicely. So for some final touches, I'm just going to add some black glaze pen for the eyes, and then I'm going to add this to the gray cardstock that came in the kit, and that is card number 4 complete. For card number 5, I wanted to use all of the images that came on the stamp. So here you go, here's a look at card number 5. We're going to use them all except for the girl holding the pen or pencil. So I wanted to use this little image with the mailbox, so I went ahead and decided that I would paper piece the mailbox using the leftover heart paper that I used in card number 3. So I'm just going to go ahead here. At first I thought I was going to put the animals over top of the paper piecing, if that makes sense. In the end, I decided it was easier to cut out the mailbox because there are those white spaces in between where the little bear is standing. So again, I'm going to color the envelope in white, and then I'm going to use similar colors for the bear that I used in previous images that I colored for the card kit. This little bear is so stinking cute, mailing his letter to his pen pal, and I thought it was really sweet that the little snail has the messenger bag over his shell as well, so super cute. So I use the same colors throughout all of my cards just to make them consistent. They would also make a really cute gift set for someone for a Christmas present or for a crafty friend. So I can't say enough about this particular kit. I loved it. I hope you really enjoyed watching me create with this kit as well. So once I get this little guy colored up, you can see I'm going quite slowly even though I've sped this up quite a bit. But there were some narrow parts of him, and so I'm just using the very tip of my marker so that I don't go outside of the lines, and I was trying to be very careful so that there wouldn't be any bleeding. For his muzzle and his ears, I'm just using a one color blend, so I'm using the lightest marker for that. And then I'm going to do the same color combination for the snail's messenger bag as well. This is really simple to color, just putting a shadow underneath where the top of the bag folds over onto the bottom half of the bag. I'm going to add a little bit of black here for the bear's nose, and then I decided to color the snail in the apricot or peach color that I've been using. He's super cute with his little nose. I thought this was drawn so adorable, and he's really easy to color. You want to make sure you're putting a shadow by his shell, and anywhere where his body is kind of indenting onto itself would cast a shadow as well. Once I get him colored up, I'm going to finish him with the shell. Decided to add a little bit of pink to the inner ears of the bear and cheeks for both of the critters. And then I'm going to use that 2-color kind of purpley royal blue color for the shell. I'm not sure if you can hear my computer fan or not, but I apologize if you can. We're in the midst of a heat wave here, and my computer is just rebelling against a 31-minute voiceover. So apologies for that, but hopefully you can still hear me okay. We're almost done card number 5. Once I get the shell of our little snail here colored up. And so for this, again, I'm using the tip-to-tip technique just to make it look like I'm using a 3rd color. Once I get that done, I'm going to add a little black to the eyes of our bear and the snail's eyes as well. I also decided to do the bear's nose and inside his mouth. Then I'm going to add some detailing with my white gel pen. And I'm going to add some polka dots to the shell of our snail. I thought this just gave him a little bit of extra character and sort of made him stand out from the bottom of this image a little bit. So now that I have the coloring done, just trying to decide if I'm done with my white gel pen, and was trying to wait for that black gel to dry so I could add a little bit of a shine on the bear's nose. But now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the paper from the mailbox onto that white cardstock. So this gives a really nice raised effect for the mailbox as well. And I'm just using my liquid adhesive for that. And then I can go ahead and I can create the rest of the scene, just showing you the other images that I colored up to use on this card. So I'm bringing out the worn lipstick again, and I'm just going to do a very soft blend on the background. I'm using the Cloudy border die. This is a Pink and Main die. I love this die. It just gives a nice frame, creates a very simple card, but gives a lot of decoration with that puffy border edge. So now I'm going to go ahead and arrange my characters here. I'm going to have the girl snuggled up to the bear, making it look like she's next in line to mail her letter. I am adhering all of these down flat to the card panel using my liquid adhesive. I decided not to add any dimension with foam adhesives or fun foam for this particular card. So this one's really super simple to pop in the mail and to get out to a crafty friend. So I'm just going to add the dog to the bottom left-hand side here, and then I'm going to stamp the sentiment. I was trying to figure out where I wanted it, and I settled on the bottom right-hand side. And I'm going to stamp paper hugs first, and then on top of that, I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says sending. So there's lots of buildable sentiments in this kit this month, which I really loved. To finish off the card, I'm just going to add some gray marker here to give them some shadowing, again to make it look like they're a little bit more grounded. I didn't want to do a blue and green background for sky and grass because I really wanted to stick to the colors that were in the kit. Once I get this onto my card base, I'm going to show you a close-up of this card, and then I will slow things down and I'll do an overview of all 5 of the cards I created today with the July Crafty Courtyard kit. I am so pleased with how these cards turned out, but it was definitely because of the amazing products in the kit this month. So as always, love to know which card was your favorite. If you had a favorite, it's always fun to see which card comes out on top. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. I think maybe the one with the holographic envelope, but I also loved the last card with all of the critters as well. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thanks Pink and Main. Always a pleasure to create with your goodies. Here's some additional videos. I'll include last month's kit in case you missed those 5 cards. Have a great day everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye.